Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Healthy Lifestyle Show, where we discuss what it means to live an active and balanced lifestyle. I'm your host, Bonnie Iris, and today we continue sharing tips, tricks, and techniques to build momentum in your healthy lifestyle journey. So today we have the pleasure of welcoming Dr. Dawson Church. Welcome, Dr. Dawson. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you, Bonnie, and a pleasure to be here.
Yes, it is. So he is an award-winning author whose best-selling book, The Genie in Your Genes, has been hailed by reviewers as a breakthrough in understanding the link between emotions and genetics. Dr. Church went on to receive his postgraduate PhD in natural medicine, as well as clinical certification in energy psychology. And now he shares how to apply the breakthroughs of energy psychology to health and athletic performance through EFT. And those who don't know what EFT is, it's emotional freedom technique. And this is why we have brought Dr. Church in today. So thank you again, Dr. Church, for coming in and being with us.
Bonnie, it's good to be here, and I'm so glad you emphasize practical tools because all of the inspiration in the world, all of the information in the world is not going to work for people unless they apply it. And so it's really critical that people not just know about health and wellness and what to do, but that they actually have a group of techniques that they apply in their lives every day. So I really appreciate that focus for the show.
Yes, definitely. And it's good to have a community where we can help motivate each other as well.
Yes.
Definitely. So I'd love to hear a bit about yourself, like what is your background and how you kind of got into this practice.
Well, I've been writing and around the whole field of wellness for many, many years. And I used to be in the publishing field. So I was publishing books and I was working for publishing companies that were in the fields of alternative medicine. And then about 15, 20 years ago, I began to really shift. And I realized that I needed to move from being a reporter about it and a facilitator of it to being an advocate. Because
True.
I began to realize that these methods, energy healing methods, alternative medicine methods in the energy healing space have enormous potential for eliminating much of the physical and psychological suffering we have today. And while conventional medicine is really good, we have all kinds of amazing medical devices. We have some fantastic drugs. We have a reasonably good healthcare system, not perfect, but it still does a fairly good job. The potential of energy healing is absolutely huge. And research is now showing that it has the ability to address not just psychological issues like anxiety, depression, PTSD, but physical ones as well. I made a list actually earlier this week for another project of all of the physical conditions that are helped by energy healing. Techniques like therapeutic touch, like Reiki, like Joe Ray, and so on. And on my nonprofit website, we have a database of those studies published in peer-reviewed journals. And there are over 800 studies there showing that people with cancer are improved when they get energy healing. People's migraine headaches improve, bone fractures improve, wound healing is faster, the immune system's upgraded, and virtually every major disease can be treated with these new forms of energy healing. And of course, they have no side effects. They're non-invasive. They don't harm you in any way. And often they produce startlingly quick and permanent results. So I really shifted from being an observer of that whole scene to being a passionate advocate that people use energy healing in their lives.
That's beautiful. I mean, I believe that now in this kind of age, everyone is not everyone, but there's a bigger shift of people moving into and being more open to energy healing and knowing and doing their own research and discovering what it is and looking for alternative and natural medicines and practices as like prescriptions can get expensive. Also, there's lots of chemicals people don't want to put in their bodies, and having an alternative way that's natural and healthy it's awesome, right? Mm-hmm.
And you actually have the ability to write yourself prescriptions for all kinds of wonderful drugs. I really recommend, for example, serotonin, and I recommend natural endorphins, and you can produce those things by sitting down and meditating. So. Yeah. We have a huge number. Our bodies produce more than 100,000 different proteins, and many of those have beneficial and healing effects in our bodies. You can make a lot of those proteins, the healing proteins, just by techniques. And then the two I teach the most are EFT and meditation. And as we are now doing research on the biological dimensions of those simple techniques, we're showing that they produce huge healing effects.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So can you explain exactly what EFT is for our listeners?
EFT is a very simple self-help method, and it's used by over 10 million people worldwide. It's spread like crazy in the last 20 years, and a huge number of people have downloaded our free mini manual. Over 3 million people at last count, and millions of people use it all over the world. Mm-hmm. And it's very simply, it's a way of combining positive thoughts and thoughts of self-acceptance with acupressure. We use pressure with our fingertips on acupuncture points, usually by tapping. So we have a sequence of 12 acupoints we have people tap while they repeat usually a sentence or an affirmation of self-acceptance. So, for example, if somebody's in pain, they'll say, even though I have this pain, I deeply accept myself. And while they're saying that, they'll apply pressure to these 12 acupoints. Mm-hmm. What that does is there's a huge amount of research. There are over 100 studies published in peer-reviewed journals on EFT, and it rapidly shifts the body's nervous system, rapidly shifts hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, and people experience a very quick release of negative emotions when they use EFT. So that's what it is in a nutshell. It's combining some cognitive acceptance of your situation with acupressure.
Yeah. So it's very beneficial and a step up from people that just kind of practice doing daily affirmations. If you can add in a few more steps and go through the process of tapping through those 12 acupuncture points, it can greatly increase the benefits of those affirmations. Is that kind of correct?
It is. And affirmations have the affirmations are a partial solution. Yeah. So affirmations are supposed to be present tense, emotionally charged, meaningful to you, personal, and so on. So you might say something like, I have my perfect soulmate with me now, or my body is naturally healthy, or I effortlessly maintain my ideal weight. Those are wonderful affirmations. And yet when I say those things, I teach a lot of live workshops all over the US every year. And when I say those affirmations like that, I effortlessly maintain my ideal weight. People just burst out into laughter because, yeah, sure, you can affirm that all you like, but 2/3 of the population is overweight or obese. Yeah. And if saying affirmations could fix you, we'd all be skinny. Yeah. So,
oh, there's the laugh. There's the laugh.
Yeah, so affirmations alone don't work. And what affirmations do is they engage the prefrontal cortex of the brain. They're all about the cognitive executive part of the brain. But when you're confronted with that piece of chocolate cake, unfortunately, what takes over is the reptile brain, the base of the brain, and also the emotional brain, the mammal brain. And those parts of the brain are ones that want all the fat, all the carbs, all the calories they can possibly get, because who knows, the next famine might be right around the corner. And this kind of approach, this worked fine for our ancestors 400,000 years ago when resources were scarce, not too good today when there's a 7-Eleven on every street corner.
Yeah.
We can stuff ourselves with Twinkies whenever we want. So the affirmations alone are targeting that prefrontal cortex, the logical thinking executive part of the brain, and that's fine to do. But what acupressure does is it works on the emotional brain. And what you see in research, for example, there have been several studies using MRI technology to hook people up to an MRI and then see what happens when you apply stimulus to acupuncture points. And it turns out that emotional brain just shuts down. There's no longer the emotional trigger there. I have a colleague who's doing an MRI study now of EFT and weight loss. And she and I have worked together on about a half a dozen studies before. And I'll give you an example from one of the people, one of our live calls. We were doing a teleclass and had one woman who she was really ashamed of herself. She said, I'm a practitioner, I'm a medical professional, and I'm really overweight. And there's one food I can't resist, and that's this frozen snack called a chocolate dream pie. It's really healthy. It's maple syrup and coconut, organic coconut, all these good things. Yeah. But she said, I just can't stop eating these things. And, I've managed to not eat I've cut all the junk food up. I'm still eating too much of this stuff. And so I don't know what to do with myself because I'm a practitioner, I'm trained, and yet I'm still giving rise to this craving. So I asked her to grab a chocolate. I actually asked people to bring one of their favorite foods to this teleclass. And I said, do you have your chocolate dream pie there with you? And she said, well, I had the wrapper.
No. She ate it.
This is so funny. Eating the chocolate dream pie while we were on the teleclass. So I did EFT with her around this, and I had to go back to her. And I said, tell me about an early emotional memory of yours. And what popped into her mind was memory when she was 10 years old. And I tell this story in detail in my book, The EFT Manual. And so when she was 10 years old, the little version of her, she went with her parents to visit her younger brother, and he was severely developmentally retarded. He never learned to speak, died at a very young age, and was in a group home most of his life. And so she remembered the trip. He was in this group home a couple of hours away from where they lived. They got in the car, drove there, saw him. He couldn't speak. She sat there with him. She felt close to him, but she had all these feelings of, what if come up in her body, her mind. And then they drove home after seeing him, again, feeling very sad. And they stopped halfway home, went to a restaurant, and had a meal. And I said to her, well, do you remember the meal? She said, yeah, I remember the meal well. We had food, and then for dessert we had a chocolate cream pie.
Yeah. There it is.
So there was the link. So we tapped with her on the chocolate cream pie and all of her 10-year-old feelings. And I then had her pick up the wrapper of the chocolate dream pie, which she was addicted to now. And she said, oh, I can't stand the smell of this thing. It's so full of sugar, has way too much sugar. I can smell all the sugar in there. It's just, she was repulsed by the same thing. Another woman I worked the same way used to crave Reese's Pieces. And I ran into her about 6 years later and she said, Dawson, I hate you. I've never been able to eat another Reese's Pieces in my life. I can't stand them now. I'm revolted by them. Wow. My favorite treat's gone away. So these are all our emotions. And that's what you work on, Bonnie, is you have to work on the emotional part of eating, emotional part of cravings. When you do that, that's what produces long-term weight loss. That's the way we use EFT, is working on the emotions behind whether it's our relationships or our performance anxiety or our weight, whatever it is that bothers us, we work on the emotional components of that with EFT.
Yeah. Wow. So sounds like I should implement that into some of my cravings, I guess.
It works.
Yeah. So what are some of the techniques that you guys practice with?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Do you have some techniques that you can walk us through for the listeners that we could possibly tap along with?
What you can do very simply to get a feeling for this is think of something that bothered you. So we'll do a little quick tapping routine now. It's not the full routine, and we'll tell you later how to download my free
Okay.
mini manual, but this is just a quick abridged version. So if you think of something that bothered you in the last 2 weeks, just think of something that bothered you at work, at home, waiting in line, not getting something you wanted, whatever it might be, just anything that's bothered you in the last 2 weeks, and then feel your emotions around the thing that bothered you, and then measure them on a scale of 0 to 10, with 0 being no emotion and 10 being extreme emotion. So think about maybe being stuck behind somebody in the supermarket with a huge big bag of groceries, and you wanted a cart of groceries, and you only wanted to buy 2 items, and you have to wait 10 minutes. Or think about being cut off in traffic, or a report you're late on doing, or like me, I need to get a book to my publisher and I'm late on the book. So think about something that happened to you in the last 2 weeks and give it a score from 0 to 10, with 0 being no emotion and 10 being extreme emotion. So, Bonnie, think of something in your own life. Don't even tell me what it is. Just give me one word to describe that thing in the last 2 weeks.
Well, something's coming to me from last night, actually. My roommates were up really late, and I was like, I want to go to bed. And they were kind of loud. So that's kind of what was bothering me last night. So,
okay, so give that event just a one-word name. If it was a movie, what would the movie title be?
No Sleep.
No Sleep, okay. So now, and when you think about no sleep, what's your number 0 to 10?
7.
7, okay. So now take 3 fingers and tap on the side of your hand below your pinky finger, just below your knuckle there. Just tap with 3 fingers of the other hand on the side of your hand. Okay? And say, even though I had no sleep.
Even though I had no sleep.
I totally accept myself.
I totally accept myself.
I accept myself and my life.
I accept myself and my life.
Even though I had no sleep.
Even though I had no sleep.
Okay, now take 2 fingers and tap right where your eyebrows meet the bridge of your nose.
Yeah.
Just say no sleep.
No sleep.
Tap on the side of either eye with 2 fingers, just on the bony ridge on the side of your eye, and say out loud, no sleep.
No sleep.
Tap under the pupil of your eye on your skull. Say again, no sleep.
No sleep.
Tap under your nose and say no sleep.
No sleep.
Tap on your chin, say no sleep.
No sleep.
Take 4 fingers and tap on the top of your breastbone, where your collarbone meets your breastbone, and say no sleep.
No sleep.
Tap on your arm about 4 inches below your armpit and just say no sleep.
No sleep.
Tap again on the side of your hand and say, even though I had no sleep.
Even though I had no sleep.
I accept myself.
I accept myself.
I'm safe and okay.
I am safe and okay.
Even though I had no sleep.
Even though I had no sleep.
Take a breath and tell me again what your number is now when you think of the event last night.
Yeah, I feel relaxed and more like a 1 or 2.
Like, 1 or 2, okay. Yeah. You see, that took about 90 seconds. I didn't try and convince you that it was okay. I didn't try and tell you to think positive. I didn't try and do anything. I just had you tap on acupressure points. And in fact, I had you remember the event even more vividly. So you were bringing it to mind. But that what's happening in the brain is that's awakening all the neural circuits around that annoyance. When we tap, it then calms the emotional brain, and we then find our distress just vanishing, or a craving, same thing.
So that's something good to do in a scenario where you get high stress. Like, is it good to do right at the instant or something?
Yes.
Like if something arises?
It's really good. Like, I've just been reading a book by a captain who was deployed in Kandahar province in Afghanistan for a couple of years. And I mean, they're in the middle of firefights and civilian attacks and all kinds of horrible things, dead bodies. And and she was tapping with people there, highly stressed people. And they were shifting very, very rapidly. We've tapped with people under all kinds of circumstances in our various research studies, and they all shift very quickly. So doing it when you're stressed is fine. And then also just remembering a stress is good too, because when you talk about something that bothered you, I mean, you're talking about something that happened last night, so it's when you talk about something, often you can capture a lot of the emotional intensity, and then you can dissipate that with tapping.
Yeah. So is there anything, or is EFT like good for everyone, or is there some people that it's not so good, or is it mostly about the intention behind it, or
Intentions are important, but it works even if you don't believe in it. Like if people think it's not going to work, it'll still work. If the practitioner doesn't believe in it, it'll still work. It's just a mechanical procedure for tapping on your acupressure points. Doesn't need any kind of belief.
Yeah.
And so there's people who are skeptical, don't think it's going to work, and it's still fine to use with them too.
That's good to know. So, yeah, is there anything else you can share with us? Some of the research you've done or currently working on?
There are over 100 studies published in peer-reviewed journals showing that EFT is effective for physical things as well as psychological things. And they really go hand in hand. We talk about physical versus psychological, mind versus body. But when you cut your finger, when you're chopping up vegetables for dinner, that's a physiological injury, but you might feel anger, you might feel shame, you might say, I'm so clumsy, you might say, how can I do that to myself? You might be afraid it's going to take a long time to heal, you might be afraid the cut's going to get infected. So we have all kinds of psychological aspects to our physical pain. Research on EFT shows that physical pain, like fracture pain, PMS, sprains, strains, cuts, burns, physical pain goes down by about 65%, 2/3 with EFT.
Because it's emotion-based.
There are all kinds of psychological and emotional aspects of physical pain. So you can use it for any of those things, and the research is really exciting. Now, our newest research is what's called epigenetic research. And I write about this a lot in the EFT manual. In the EFT manual, I talk about epigenetics, which is factors that affect our gene expression from outside the cell, outside the body. And when you tap, we're showing that it produces changes in many genes, produces regulation of your cancer genes, for example. It regulates your immunity genes, so your immune system gets a tune-up. It regulates inflammation genes, so it dials down inflammation in your body. It regulates metabolism genes, so your metabolism is better. Your body processes, metabolizes things better with EFT. So we're now digging into the very, very basic levels, fundamental levels of people's molecular biology, measuring what happens there, and it shows that EFT is having a dramatic effect on the way your body functions.
Wow, that's amazing. It really sounds like more people should get into this, because there's so many illnesses and just little things that everybody needs to work on, either if it's emotional or physical or psychological. And this is kind of like it can help with many different scenarios in people's lives.
It's heartbreaking when I do a lot of live workshops, and in my live workshops, people come up to the front and tell their stories sometimes and share what's going on with them. And what's so sad, Bonnie, is to talk to somebody who, like I talked to one woman who was an Olympic athlete and was in the last Olympics, and she's young, she's like in her early 30s, and yet she has so much upset, struggle in her life. She looks so good. I mean, she looks very, very physically fit. She's beautiful. She's young. She's got a lot going for her. Got lots of money, and yet she's just suffering in such a deep way. Then at the other end of the spectrum, I work with people sometimes at my live workshops who are in their 80s, and they've been carrying around this burden of psychological distress, maybe anger, maybe shame. Like one woman had an event at a dance when she was 17 years old. Now she's 90, and she's still just from this event, and it happened 83 years ago, 73 years ago, and it's still just weighing down her spirit. And it's tragic, because people don't have to do that. You can just tap all of those problems away and have a way better life. So yeah, It is so important to do this. I can also tell you, you age much less quickly, and you have a lot less disease as you get older if you dissipate your stress. Research shows that optimists live about 8 years longer than pessimists. People who are kind and compassionate have longer and healthier lives than people who are angry and upset. And you do many good things for your health when you release your stress.
Yeah, I think that's really important, especially for people these days. We're all living stressful lives, going to work,
Yeah.
and just a simple technique like this. So how long should a person spend doing this? Like, is it a daily routine, or I know
Mostly, I
you just
tap
showed
whenever
the
I'm feeling
small
even a
one.
little bit stressed. I also tap when I'm feeling really happy, just to boost my happiness. I also meditate every morning, and in the link I'm going to give you in a minute, you can also get a super simple free meditation technique
Okay.
that, again, we've shown in research really boosts your immune system. And so I tap whenever I'm stressed. If I have a stressful phone call, stressful email, I do a little bit of tapping. Each morning I tap just to start the day off with releasing any kind of negative emotion. So basically, do it for that 90 seconds the readers did when you were thinking about your sleep event, or you can do it whenever you're stressed throughout the day. And if you get in the habit of releasing your stress that way, you'll have a way less stressed life.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing this information on ETF and everything about emotional freedom technique. Sure is something that I would like to look in myself, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners that we have on this channel would value the link that you're going to share with them as well.
Good. Yeah, please use it. And the link is just my name, Dawson, Dawson, Dawson Gift, Gift. So go to dawsongift.com, and what you'll get there is you'll get our free EFT mini manual, the free instructions for meditation. And again, this is a very simple meditation that works even if you haven't been successful before, as well as several reports and other freebies. You also get a coupon you can use for $100 off on our weight loss program, and another coupon for our relationships program, because people often need a lot of help establishing good, healthy, loving relationships. So we have several online programs to help with all of that. And all of that is available at dawsongift.com.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Dawson Church, for sharing all this information. And now we can all tap, tap, tap away and to freedom, I guess, right? That's essentially it, hey?
That's the idea, Bonnie. Use it, and you'll find your energy system shifting and your life shifting as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today on our Healthy Lifestyle Show. We are here every week discussing topics on nutrition, fitness, and creating healthy and balanced lifestyles. So make sure you don't miss an episode, and you can always subscribe on our iTunes channel. And until next time, stay well, stay healthy, and be happy. Listeners should know this podcast is for informational purposes only and assumes no responsibility for how this material is used. While using any information shared here, please consult with your healthcare provider.